Hi everyone, this video is going to be a very special video. It is a discussion for Women's History Month, and in this discussion I will be sharing with you my experience of growing into my womanhood. I'm going to share with you some of the lessons that I have learned and the lessons that I would like to learn as I go on this womanhood journey. I want to share with you some of the incidents and people that have come into my life that have shaped and transformed me into the woman that I am today. And my story is going to begin when I was a child, before I became a woman, and you will see how my perspective from then to now has changed over the course of years. I'm also going to make a little disclaimer before this video. So in this video, I'm going to be mentioning a lot about male interaction, like my relationships, both romantic and non-romantic, with males. And the only reason I'm doing this is not to bash males, but it's because those incidents and those lessons were a vital part of transforming me into the woman that I am today. So I really want to mention them because they are very, very important to this lesson. So we will begin from when I was a child. I was biologically born a female. Just in case you're thinking like this is like a trans video. No, I was biologically born a female. Most of my childhood, I only viewed myself through two lenses: the lens of race and the lens of religion. I came from a religious family, so that was a given, but I also went to a predominantly white Christian megachurch school. And I went there from 1st grade through 7th grade and had no more than probably 8 classmates or black classmates in the entire school. So that beginning experience is how I viewed myself all the way up until my late 20s, through the lens of race and also through the lens of religion. There were 3 primary groups that caused me to view in this way. The first group was the collective, my school. So when I say my school, I mean my teachers, my classmates, and the curriculum. So that's one group. The second group were black adults, ironically, or primarily black males. And I say ironically because the contrast of how they helped me develop as a child and how they helped me develop as a woman in my later years is like night and day. The third group were black children in my age group that influenced me, and all 3 of these groups, all 3 of them made a very significant impact on my life, and I'm going to share how each of them did that. So with the classmates, or with the collective, my school, I had friends that I'm still friends with, but since we're talking about through the lens of race and religion, most of my teasing was because I was African American. How I wear my hair now is just plaited, but when I was a child, I would wear it in a poof ball. I just had poof ball, poof ball, poof ball, barrette over here, barrette over there, all of that. My name was different than everybody else's name. They kept associating me with another classmate who, they're like, you're siblings, but I'm an only child, so no, we're not siblings. Just because he's black and just because I'm black does not mean we're siblings. It does not mean we're in love with each other. It was just a really hard time. The curriculum didn't help because anybody that was not a Christian, anybody that was non-white was viewed as a heathen, or they were viewed as like immoral or enslaved or something. You never saw any black queens. You never saw any black kings. You never saw any of that in my curriculum. Some of the people that said racist things, and I don't know if they did it like if they were doing it to be spiteful or if they were doing it because they literally didn't know any better. Like my 1st grade teacher, when we were at school on Martin Luther King Day, she said, and mind you, I'm the only black child in my class, in my grade, because that's how small the school was. The grades would be like 15 kids a grade. She'd be like, Martin Luther King came to save people like Kiara. That's why we celebrate Martin Luther King Day. Then she showed like a Shirley Temple movie with blackface in it. Like, I don't know, but she just really loved me. It was a very strange dynamic. So for the longest time of my life, I saw myself through the lens of race. Anytime I dealt with somebody that was non-black, I knew they were looking at me, or I assumed they were looking at me as just like through their lens of race. Now, black children, I wanted a black friend. I had my cousins. They were my black friends, but they were my cousins. I wanted a black friend of my own. Everybody had their little best friend. I wanted my own best friend. But it was very difficult getting a black best friend because, number one, I wasn't playing with children in the neighborhood like that. Number two, some of the children were so different from me. Like, some of them were rich, and like living this high class lifestyle. Others were just like from the hood, or so they say, like, I'm hood, or that's what they called themselves. Don't quote me on that. That's what they called themselves. So they'd be like, you talk weird and you talk like that and blah, you're not really black, or touching my hair. You have good hair. That was so confusing because first in one setting you're made fun of for your hair, and then another you're praised for your hair. It was just a very confusing time. Now, as far as the black adults, particularly the black males, black male barbers, if I want to be even more specific, they really helped me with my self-esteem. My mother sold hair products, so we'd be at all the barber colleges, all the beauty shops, and these black males, they would help me. They supported me. I would sell my little art pieces, and they would be there to buy it. They'd be like, you're beautiful, you're a queen, and blah, 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 and your ancestors were great. Just gassing me up, okay? Like telling me my history. So I had 3 different dynamics going on. And that is why for the longest time, I only saw myself through the lens of race and belief system. Now, after a while, the belief system kind of fell off, like didn't really become a part of my identity, but the race stayed there. And it stayed there all the way through college too. It did not change until a couple of years ago. I'm going to be 33 this year, so it probably started at like 29-ish or 30 due to the experiences that I had to get me to this point right now. Now, it wasn't as if I had on blinders and didn't know that there was this womanhood everywhere. I already knew there was this like womanhood, but I associated that with white women because they were the primary ones that I saw talking about like feminism and all of that. They were the ones that I saw that were always coming up to me about like women's rights and different things. I wasn't thinking about that, even though I was a woman, and mainly because I was just so focused on race, I didn't even think about like, I am a woman. I was like, I am black, and then I am a woman. That is how I thought for the longest time. So, the first time I almost, actually there were two different pre-triggers that got me thinking three. There were 3 different pre-triggers that got me on the path of thinking in terms of me being woman. The first was I had a professor, and she had a class on women's history. We had a whole text, no, maybe 4. The first time I thought of anything related to women was my freshman year of college, and there was a young white girl, I can't remember her name, very talented artist. I think she's still doing art. She's like a professional artist. But she was talking about feminism and different things, and I didn't understand because nobody had talked to me about feminism. I didn't know what it was. The next time was maybe a few years later when I had the women's history professor. And that was the first time I had seen a woman so passionate about women's history. It was a older white woman, and she gave us this textbook, which I still have, but I didn't feel connected to it at first because I just still saw just women's anything as white women. I just associated it as just with white women. Anything black women I associated with blackness, but I didn't associate like women with blackness. Like, I don't know why I thought like that, but that's literally how I thought. So it was the first time I had seen somebody so passionate about womanhood and all of these different things. And I learned a lot, but it still didn't register. It still didn't register. And you know why it didn't register? Because I had not had the experiences that made it register. I didn't understand it because I didn't have anything personal attached to it. It didn't make me really think. It didn't make me like want to do something about it because I felt like I was detached from it. But that changed. The third incident happened before all of the college thing. The third incident happened when I was 14 years old. When I was 14, I looked like I was 11 or 12. Like, people mistook me for 11, 12 all the time. Because I didn't dress like all the 14-year-olds. I was just little. I had dolls. I had bows, barrettes, and ponytails. But this man came up to me and he asked me how old I was. He must have been in his mid to late 20s. He may have been in his 30s. And he came up to me and asked me would I like to be in his music video. Now, I remember saying, oh, I can't be, because I don't know how to dance. And I still don't know how to dance. That's why you'll never catch me at a dance party, okay? But that was the first time any man had come up to me, not as a black person, but just as a female. And that stuck with me. And I always wonder, like, what would have happened to me if my mother hadn't been there? What would have happened to me, all these other different incidents, if my mother and other adults had not been there? And I'm glad nothing happened to me as a child, because as I got older, it got gradually worse. Honestly, my experience as a woman. The next pre-trigger, where I started thinking in terms of like, wow, I'm a female or a woman, was when I ran into this man that I had known as a child. Now, I was like 10, maybe 8, 10, and this man had to be he was probably in his either late 20s or his early 30s. He had to be in his late 20s or early 30s. And when I saw him, I knew him because we had known each other, me, him, my mom, and all these people, because he would go around to different shops and sell and different things. So we saw each other. I was like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? And this dude asked me for my phone number. And that was the first time in my life that a male that I knew that was an adult when I was a child had approached me in like a sexual way. Now, mind you, when he came up to me, I was like 20, 21. But this is what really bothered me. He said he wanted to take me out, and I was so confused. Because I'm like, didn't he know me as a child? Like, he watched me grow up. And he verbally said, I've been waiting for you to grow up. I was like, I didn't know what to say. I don't even remember what I said. I don't know what happened to him. Like, I'm still so disturbed. Like, I can't even describe, like, how hurt. I was so hurt. I'm just hurt. Most of my experiences as growing into my womanhood have been like these perpetual realizations, but also this strange perpetual betrayal or shock. That's what my experiences have been primarily so far as I have learned these lessons. So then, as I grew, not only did I have the lens of race, not only did I have the lens of religion, I also took on a new lens, which was how I perceive myself through the perspective of men. And how I started operating was like, I wanted a man to like me. Like if it was somebody I liked, I'm like, I want him to like me. I want him to think I'm pretty. I want him to like value me and different things. I didn't understand. I didn't have a guide. I had to learn it through trial and error. Like if a man said something to me and it hurt me, it would stick with me. It would, what they said they wanted in a woman was how I operated. What they said a woman should be, I took it in whole heart instead of with a grain of salt. I actively tried to become what they wanted or what they said a woman should be. Yet, none of that worked. And as I grew and experienced more and more and more, I stopped valuing their opinion. As I grew and matured and developed in my femininity, I realized that most of their opinions were actually trash, and I would have just been better not opening my ears up to them at all. But of course, I didn't know. I didn't know that. And as I found out the truth, I grew even more disillusioned. Like, not all of my experiences with guys have been bad. Some of them have been very valuable. Some men have told me like what I should see in a man, like what a true man would do. But I don't know. But I find those experiences to be valuable because they only made me stronger in myself. Some of the things, what I noticed as I grew into my womanhood, that some of the things that did not make sense as a child, or some of the things I had heard over and over and over and over, didn't register in my mind until I had like an epiphany of what they actually meant. Okay. Like that Malcolm X quote, the most disrespected woman on the earth is a black woman. The most unprotected woman on the earth is a black woman. And I know I had heard it a billion times, but it did not register until it registered. Like it literally, I had to go through some just crazy things in order for it to be like, wow, he was actually telling the truth. Like, for example, he said, the most disrespected woman on the earth is the black woman. And I'm just going to start with disrespect. It's like, I noticed that as a woman, I had to be more assertive. I couldn't be assertive because then they'd be like, and these were things I just noticed. This wasn't something somebody told me. These are just observations I had to make myself. And then I find out like somebody else has written a dissertation on it or something. Like, it's an epiphany I've been having. So I noticed like I would say something and I'd say something to a guy and he just wouldn't take it seriously. I would say something and it was like I had said nothing at all. Why did I even talk? I would express my mind and they literally didn't care. Like all they were thinking about was just sexual things. Like the processes of them disguising themselves, the lengths that they would go in order to take advantage of someone were so astronomical. I just was so disillusioned and disturbed. The most unprotected. As I grew older, street harassment increased. I had last week, this man grabbed my head on the bus and he grabbed my head and he like ran his hands through my hair, like what the heck. But I had gotten to a point where I had just been bothered by dudes so much that I didn't even have an emotional response. Like, make it make sense. I had a man a couple of years ago, I was reading a book, lick me on the back of my neck. I've had guys grab me. I've had them shout at me. I've had them break in my house. Twice. Throw things at me. I had a man I don't know what he threw at me. He threw like, I don't know, it was really heavy. He tried to throw it at my head. Grab me. Threaten me. Stalk me. Like, one time, this man on the bus said he was gonna R-A-P-E-D me. Or no, R-A-P-E me. And he said it in front of a whole bus. And there were 5 grown men sitting there between the ages of 20 and 60. And they just all looked. They didn't even say anything. Nobody came to my aid to protect me. If I ever mentioned something about protection, they'd be like, well, you're on your own. And this isn't like to bash black men, because all of these incidents happen with black men, but this is literally an observation I have made as a woman. And because of this treatment, I became stronger in myself. I got developed into the mindset like, if I am a woman, I always have to be on my P's and Q's. I always have to make sure that I am okay. I have to make sure that my mental and emotional health is okay. Nobody taught me that. This is just some of the conclusions I came to. Yes, I may have heard it before, but it didn't register until it registered. Just not feeling protected at all. And because of this like protection thing, like where, getting harassed and getting threatened, that's when I began to realize how important it was to have a sisterhood. I never thought about sisterhoods in terms of womanhood because I was always just viewing myself as just black and not a woman. But because of my experiences with like all of these threats and different things, my behavior started to change. I started understanding why certain women in history did certain things. Sometimes when I was younger, before my realizations, I would read a story about like a woman that literally lost her mind and she went in an asylum because of such and such a thing, or a woman that like jumped off of a building because of such and such a thing. And I didn't understand like why would she do that until I understood. Because the level of harassment just got so bad, I didn't want to leave my house. I was like, am I a person or am I just a body? I started taking notice of how the media talked to women, and I had to make a decision of how I wanted to talk to myself or what I would let into my mind. For example, in like relationships, I always saw myself through my partner. If he didn't like it or whoever the partner was, then I'm going to change. I would make all of these astronomical changes for a love interest, but lose myself in the process because I valued him more than I valued myself. I was in like professional relationships. I'm just like, do you like me as a worker? Do you value me as a worker? Or am I just like are you grooming me to be like a sex object? Which one is it? Because I had male employers like try to come at me. And these were men, these weren't like street dudes. These were professional men that are supposed to be upstanding citizens in society. There was a man I worked for who was very religious, and this man was literally preying on, and mind you, he was almost 60 years old, preying on impoverished 21-year-olds that had really nowhere to go. I started thinking of myself like, how am I going to protect myself in this world of guys? I never saw men or anything as an enemy. I still don't. But during that very traumatic time, that is how I saw it. I'm like, they're out to get me and destroy me. Because that is literally what they were doing at the time. They're breaking into my house. They're throwing things at me on the street. They're threatening to kill me. Like, how am I supposed to respond? They're mad that I'm not dressing the way they want me to dress. That's when the whole women's rights thing started making sense in my mind. Okay, like it started making sense because it was something as small as like, you can't wear this, Kiara. You can't dress this way. You need to eat this, Kiara. You need to. One guy said you need to start smoking weed so we can be together. I've never smoked weed. Like, why do I need to start smoking weed and drinking in order for us to be together? Why do I have to do all of these different things? Why do I have to alter my body for you? I also noticed as I got older, or as I matured in my womanhood, that I always had to be with a very strong mind and value myself and know that I am useful in my own way. Because as I got older, it was like men and the media were saying, oh, you're such and such an age. Oh, when you get through menopause, you're going to be useless. You better have a husband now. If you don't do this, nobody will marry you. And and the black woman does this and the black woman does that and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, you know what? I just got so tired of like, you want me to do this, you want me to do that. I knew women that do that. I knew women that had supported their spouses, and these were married women. There was a woman I knew, she had supported her spouse. She was a very faithful and devoted wife. She raised his son to respect him. She was a very beautiful woman. She loved her husband, and this man abandoned the whole family and went after like some whatever, the opposite of what he said he wanted. The opposite of what he said he wanted. I knew a woman who was a devoted wife. She could cook, clean, sew. She was a little prayer warrior, very good mother, very beautiful. And this man literally cheated on her with a prostitute, the complete opposite of what he said he wanted. So, as I developed into my womanhood, I said, you know what? I'm going to be what I think I should be. And I'm also going to stop judging other women for what they think they should be too. Because I started having more empathy for other women, like how they got to a certain point. In the past, I might have been angry at them for being a certain way. But after I started going through things, I realized that, yes, she may be damaged, but she's my sister. Like, damage. She may be like damaged. I can't think of a word like, or hurt, but she's my sister. What truly helped me on this journey in womanhood were older women. The older women, especially in a circle of women, like, they were the only refuge I could find in this hateful world. They shared their stories and their pain, and it helped me to have a broader viewpoint. It also helped me to stop judging myself. And I especially love stories of the women that were like, I was this when I was wild when I was 20, but now I'm such and such a thing. And they learned from it. They developed. They saw the use in themselves. I remember right now what I'm dealing with as far as my journey in womanhood is like aging, even though I'll be 33, so that's not old. Like, I'm okay with growing older, but for some reason, like, it's starting to become some problem. One of my harassers was like, "You're getting old. You're getting old. Look at you. You're getting old." Like, what do you want? A 19-year-old? There was a man that almost stopped talking to me because I was 32. He wanted me to be 22. There was a man that was 44, and he was disappointed I was like, at the time, 29. He thought I was 21 at the oldest. So I'm glad. I'm glad that these strange men have come to me and shown themselves, because it actually helped me to grow in wisdom. It helped me to see like what type of man I should be with, what type of men I should have in my life. I don't have that many men in my life. I have my friend Terrence, and I really like my friend Terrence because he's respectful and he did protect me when I had nowhere to live. I have another friend who was respectful, and then there's a guy out of town that I talk to. I really like him because this is like the first romantic relationship-ish thing where like the guy really respects and values my opinion. Like, he's not trying to force me into the like this little mold, like, you have to be a warrior queen or you have to be like the, like, just accepts and acknowledges my opinion. Like, even if we weren't like romantically involved, as a friend, he would probably do that too. He's very respectful of women, very respectful of people. So yeah, right now I'm beginning to be more confident in you as a woman. I'm learning to accept my body. I'm learning to accept my choices, and encouraging myself to research more about women's role in history, particularly Black women, because, I'm always going to be a Black woman. And I just want to see, like, I've been listening to a lot of Black women empowerment content creators on YouTube. A lot of them are controversial. In fact, a lot of them argue with each other. Like, they'll argue back and forth. But I listen to every single one of them, and they're all very different. I just want to see what they have to say. And a lot of them make some good points. Some I don't agree with, but others I'm like, okay, I see what your overall message, their overall message is they want us to value ourselves and to aim higher. If I could dissect an overall overarching message of what they all have in common, is all of them, even if they're extremely extreme, want Black women to do better. They want them in a better situation. I never thought about my safety as a Black woman until I started getting attacked. But I was never attacked by the people that look like my peers as a child. I was attacked by my own people. In fact, like, how a white guy comes at me, and this isn't like me bashing like Black, but how a white guy comes at me and how a Black man comes at me is like two different ways. Like, the white guy will be much more respectful, and yet both parties are coming up to me on the street. So they're just, it's like different. I'm not judging them. I guess like one is more like, I don't know how many Black women they've talked to, and the other's like, hey, I'm confident, I'm coming up to you, and this is what I have to do, you're gonna take it or leave it. Some of them are business professionals, some of them are just like some hood dudes, but they all basically come at me like, hey, da 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 da, like just straight to the point. But now I'm just kind of over, yeah. I'm not like over guys. I'm just ready to experience more of myself and my womanhood and developing myself. Now I am my primary concern. Not a relationship, not how a man will view me. I am my primary concern. If I want to elevate myself degree-wise, like if I want to go off and get a PhD and spend my life studying something, I will do just that. If I want to have children, I'll do that. If I don't want to have children, I'll do that too. If I want to be single all my life, or if I want to get married, it's literally okay. I accept myself in any form that I want to go in, or any direction. I already accept it. And that is where I am at in my journey of womanhood. So perhaps I will grow even more in that pathway. And I'm very excited, especially like if I become a mother, that'll be a whole new dynamic. Or if I don't become a mother, that'll be another dynamic too. I just accept all of my phases like the moon. Mother, maiden, crone. Young Kiara, now Kiara, elderly Kiara. I love all of them. Because each year I will get wiser and wiser and wiser and wiser and wiser and wiser. And then I'll be able to help someone like me when they're at this point in their life as well. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings or anything. I just wanted to share my truth. I'll talk to you later.